Hey everybody, Ryan Madora here, and welcome back to another bass lesson. Now today we're going to talk a little bit about the Mixolydian mode and why it's so crucial if you're becoming a blues bass player and want to know a little bit more about that theory, music, connection, all that good stuff. And if you want to support this channel, get tab or notation or backing tracks for this lesson, please head over to my Patreon page. You can find it there. In the meantime, you can kind of like this video, support the channel, all that stuff, subscribe, you know the deal. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about this Mixolydian and why it's so important. Now, if you're not familiar with the modes, you probably just kind of know your major and minor scales, but the modes are kind of this thing that we talk a little bit about. It's got these like funny Greek letters and words and all that. And the thing to know about the Mixolydian mode is it's basically the major scale with the flat 7 instead of a major 7. Now you may say, how do we get here? Well, the Mixolydian mode is built off of scale degree 5 of this kind of like tonic key. So let's say we're in the key of C major. If you were to build modes off of each note of the scale, so you'd build something off C playing C to C, D playing D to D, that's Dorian, E to E, F to F, G to G. If you played from G to G using just the notes of a C major scale, meaning no sharps, no flats, you would basically have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and back to G. Now you may say, wow, this looks just like a major scale, but it has a flatted 7th. That's the Mixolydian mode. Now the reason why it's so important is because the Mixolydian mode works really well over a dominant chord. A dominant chord is a major triad at its core, root, 3rd, 5th, with the addition of the flat 7th. You might be like, oh wow, that flat 7th is the one thing that we don't have in our major scale. Huh. So we realize that a dominant chord, root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7th, basically uses 4 out of most of the notes of the Mixolydian mode, which is basically the major scale, but with that flat 7th. So that works really well. Dominant chord, Mixolydian mode, the two things are very much related. Now, if you're wanting to kind of find like a couple different ways to play this on the fretboard, I have a couple go-to shapes. The first shape is kind of that standard 4-fret span major scale shape that we love, where we're playing root with our middle finger, and we're playing our 4-fret span major scale shape, but we're using our middle finger for scale degree 7 instead of our ring finger, which gives us our major 7. This is one instance where you want to give yourself the middle finger as opposed to the ring finger as you are playing this particular scale shape. So just like a major scale that you know, but using that middle finger for the flat 7th and then playing the octave. Now, another great scale shape that I like from Mixolydian is kind of what I pull from my 5-fret span shape, meaning I'm kind of starting to move vertically on the fretboard a little bit. And my root, 2nd, 3rd, going index, middle, pinky. I'm going to do scale degree 4, 5, 6 on the next string. I'm going to kind of pop back with my index finger and then finish out with the octave with my middle finger. So you can see that it's basically, again, very similar to a 5-fret span major scale shape, but I'm kind of scooching back with my index finger to capture that flat 7th there. So this is another really useful shape for Mixolydian. Now, a third one that I really like is kind of this hybrid shape, and it's really useful for if you're starting to move up the fretboard or if you want to catch a second octave and kind of find yourself up here. And that's basically taking your index finger, scooching it up a whole step to scale degree 2, finding scale degree 3, 4 with your pinky, 5, 6, here's our flat 7 with our pinky, and then you can get the octave here. So this is an interesting shape. Again, start with your index finger, go up a whole step. There's our flat 7, and then our octave. And the thing that I like about this is, again, you can kind of explore a second octave here by doing a very similar shape, taking that index finger, going up a whole step again, kind of following here, and then taking your pinky up for that last whole step to get to the high G. So kind of this 2-octave Mixolydian shape. And that's a really cool shape for it. And again, like you can kind of shift in different places, but that's a really cool way to kind of just seamlessly get up the fretboard. So once you've practiced these couple of shapes for Mixolydian, let's talk a little bit about the relationship between that and playing a blues. Now, you may be familiar with something called like the blues scale. The blues scale kind of sounds like this. it's grooving, it's cool, it's awesome, but it is a minor sounding thing. You know, we have a minor third here. Now you may say to yourself like, yeah, well, a lot of blues has like this minor vibe to it. And yes, that is the case. There are minor blues tunes. A lot of blues melodies kind of take on this minor quality. And the blues scale is something that a lot of people kind of give to guitar players that are starting to solo, where it's like you can play these notes and sound pretty competent as you start playing solos over blues progressions. However, we are bass players, and a lot of the moves that we make, a lot of the decisions that we make in terms of creating bass lines comes down to exploring the harmony and knowing how to express the chord. So if we're playing a standard blues like your shuffle or your slow blues, something that kind of leans major sounding, we kind of want to pull from Mixolydian because that's the thing that will help us play over a dominant chord. Remember, in a blues, we're having a 1, 4, 5 chord. They're all going to be dominant. So you can think about our G chord, root 3rd, 5th, flat 7th. Sounds like that. The 4 chord is going to be a C7. Again, same shape. The 5 chord is a D7. And I'm just kind of playing the shapes both up here as chords so you can kind of hear it, and then arpeggiating it down at the bottom of the neck, because that's kind of the realm that we live in, right? And hearing that relationship between the chord itself and the arpeggiation of it, because we're basically just outlining the chord, playing one note at a time. And you see like, oh wow, this is kind of the building block for a lot of blues bass lines. That kind of classic pattern basically goes root, 3rd, 5th, there's our triad, scale degree 6th from our major scale or our Mixolydian, and that flat 7 gives us that Mixolydian, that flat 7th. So we kind of see like, oh, this is our basic like blues bass line that works really well. We play it over a dominant chord. It's got this major tonality to it. We're hitting that flat 7. This is what we use to create a bass line that expresses the chord or the harmony of the song. So again, this is kind of the quintessential thing when we think about like how we create bass lines. It's usually how we're expressing the chord, which is why Mixolydian is such a good choice as opposed to using like the blues scale for creating a bass line. Now, you can do a lot of different things with this. You could kind of play your shuffle groove. This is a really common thing. If we look at those notes, oh, we have a root, 5th, a flat 7th, and the octave. Totally cool to not play the 3rd, that's fine, still works. You can flip that pattern. You can kind of play a kind of that jump blues pattern. You could also play like the double shuffle feel. So the big thing here is like we're using a lot of the same ingredients, but we're playing with the rhythm of it, the context of it, and kind of giving it its own unique thing. We could also play a funky groove. You know, so I'm basically using, again, the same building blocks, root, 3rd, 5th, 6th, flat 7th. The 6th is nice because it's not a chord tone, but it is a scale tone. It leans major. It's also part of our major pentatonic. It checks a lot of boxes. And these are the basic ingredients for creating blues bass lines using the Mixolydian. So I hope that this provided some cool insight for you. Again, you can move this to all the chords in our chord progression. They're all Mixolydian chords, or they're all Mixolydian. They're all dominant chords so that you can use the Mixolydian over it, which is really great. And that's why you can kind of move the same pattern from one chord to another within a blues. But it kind of ties together the bass line that you're playing plus the harmony and kind of bringing in that theory into the conversation. So I hope you dug this. Again, if you want to get tab or notation, anything like that, head over to my Patreon page. You can support there. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video. Happy practicing, everybody, and keep it groovy.